Yeah. Yeah. Hello everyone. Good evening to all of you. This is the first live session of this massive open online course on philosophical foundations of social research. Um, as you know that it's a 20-hour course. I mean spanning through 8 weeks. 2 months. It started on the 18th of January 2021 and it will be there till March 2021. Okay, and the kind of questions that we have received till now, one suggests no, then no question yet, then do we carry out quantitative research in philosophy? Yes, it depends on the kind of question, research question that you tend to frame in philosophy. You see, if you look at philosophy of mathematics, for example, philosophy of chemistry, philosophy of science. Okay, it's not simply about quantitative or qualitative. It's about the kind of questions that you have, research questions that you have framed, the kind of objectives that you have formulated over a period of time in your research that is going to determine. But mostly in philosophy, you will find qualitative research, no doubt about it. Uh, but in other spheres of social sciences and humanities, you will find that maybe in philosophy, in literature, you may find qualitative techniques being deployed. Uh, but if you look at other areas within humanities and social sciences, then you will find that uh, we deploy both qualitative as well as quantitative tools and techniques of social research. Please don't think that um, uh, uh, we'll learn or we do research only through quantitative or only through qualitative mode. We do research on both fronts, and social sciences cannot be divorced from this reality. Okay, and somebody suggests please provide PDF notes. I can only do one thing. I'll request my TAs to upload the PPT, PDF version of the PPT, because I haven't yet received the transcribed material of the lectures from IIT Madras, from NPTEL SOM platform. Once I receive, I'll definitely upload that transcribed material in the portal so that everybody can access this. Obviously, we are going to have one more live session in the coming month, right? Coming month, no? In March, yeah. In March, we are going to have one more live session. You can keep on posing questions on various contentious issues within philosophical foundations of social research. Okay, one some Lasker. Yeah, very good. So PPT is available through Snapshot. Uh, you can do that, and I can also upload the PDF version of the PPT. You can download the entirety, right? Thank you so much for thanks, Lasker. Uh, uh, for letting us know uh, uh, um, what I would like you to make you. I would like you to understand that this 8-week course in the form of 20 hours of lectures. I mean, the first week in terms of 2 lectures has been divided. Has been presented to you in the form of history of philosophy of social sciences. Um, in the first week, we have discussed methods of science, empiricism and rationalism, then Comte and positivism. How Comte's law of 3 stages has traversed through theological stage to metaphysical stage to positivistic or scientific stage, right? And then we have discussed the relationship between, or the changing relationship between epistemology on the one hand and ontology on the other. As you know, epistemology is a body of knowledge or theory of knowledge, and ontology studies. Ontology is a study of nature of existence. What is being, what is existing? These are the questions that ontology addresses. And what is knowledge? What counts as knowledge? How is knowledge produced? It is dealt with by the proponents of epistemology. Okay, and that's how we have discussed empiricism, rationalism, Comte's law of 3 stages through theological stage, metaphysical stage, and positivistic or scientific stage, and then the interrelationship between epistemology and ontology. Okay. Then in the second week, now we are in the second week or third week? Second. In the second week, we have discussed. No, second week is over, right? 18th to 25th, 25th to 1st. This is third week, right? In the second week, we have discussed Emil Durkheim's The Rules of Sociological Method, influence of sciences on sociology, objectivity in social sciences, social facts, what constitutes social facts, autonomy of knowledge, and the necessity of science, common sense and science, comparative social sciences. The framework, the comparative framework within social sciences has been discussed. Then organic analogy and precursor to functionalism. The entire discourse on Durkheim's reflections on the rules of sociological method, social facts and the autonomy of sociology, social facts and the necessity of science, common sense and science, social realism, and how Durkheim strongly refutes such accusations in the context of social realism. And then we have discussed sociology of knowledge, representations, collectives, the classification of knowledge, cultural relativism versus scientific truth, philosophy of religion, and then division of labor in society, modernity in Europe, and so on. Okay. Now a question which is posed by Raut, Reshwab Raut. Sir, is there any Indian equivalent philosophical ideas of Kant's deontological ethics? You see, Kant's critique of pure reason, see, this is not absolutely a philosophy course, number one. Okay. This is a course on philosophical foundations of social research. Okay. Number one, Kant's critique of pure reason perhaps is the basis through which we talk about interpretation today, we talk about interpretive sociology, and so on. Okay, that's why while discussing Max Weber's reflections on research methods in social sciences, we have discussed. In the third week we have discussed positivism and neo-Kantianism and methodology of social sciences, And that's how we have discussed how Weber's positions, Weber's theoretical positions and methodological writings are a reflection of positivism on the one hand and neo-Kantianism on the other. Uh, when I say positivism, I mean supremacy of science over non-sciences, and neo-Kantianism suggests that our knowledge of the world is constructed and hence subject to selection and interpretation. Uh, uh, and then we have discussed Weber's methodology of I mean in the third week we are discussing Weber's methodology of the social sciences. Okay, and yeah, and in this context, is there any Indian equivalent philosophical ideas of Kant's deontological ethics? Uh, See, I'm not sure about this whether there is an Indian equivalent or not, but you can look at certain books like Dale Ripey's Objectivity and Subjectivity in Philosophy of Science with specific reference to India. Okay, Dale Ripey. Okay, R-I-E Dale Ripey. R-I-E-P. Okay, you can Dale Ripey's works on uh, objectivity and subjectivity, and objectivity and subjectivism in the philosophy of science with specific reference to India. Uh, but it is absolutely not an Indian equivalent. Okay. Mm, Obviously it is not absolute, but you can still explore these things. Okay, it's important to explore this because um, if you say that no critique of pure reason, deontological ethics, you may not be able to. I may not be able to find out an Indian equivalent. Okay, again, Laskar says, "Sir, thank you so much for a wonderful lecture on philosophical foundations of social science research. It has really brought clear ideas on social research based on both empirical as well as thank you, Laskar. Again, thanks, sir. We'll definitely look that up. Anil Kumar asks, can we say there are philosophical foundations of research in natural sciences as well like we have in social sciences? Yes, obviously. I mean, social science research methods. I mean, philosophical foundations of social research primarily borrowed so much from the philosophical foundations of natural sciences. Social sciences earlier were modeled on the basis of natural sciences. That's why social sciences in general and sociology in particular, even philosophy itself, it was modeled on positivism for a long time. Okay, but with Kant's critique of pure reason, and then obviously many philosophers, social scientists, historians, sociologists, anthropologists, uh, even Weber, for example. Okay, they tried to uh, bring out the discussion on the differences that we have in natural sciences on the one hand and social sciences on the other. Okay, it's extremely important to understand this phenomenon, precisely because if you say that no, they are same. Yes, at one point of time they may remain them they may be same, but at a different point of time they are different, because you will find that the kind of physics, chemistry, biology, astronomy, and other scientific disciplines they are carried out, you will find that yes, you may say that no, there is a sense of definitiveness, there is a sense of certainty. Okay, in sciences, but in social sciences, yeah, or humanities, you will not find us that kind of a sense of certainty, a sense of definitiveness. Okay, but going beyond these, going beyond such differences, you will find that even natural sciences today are not definite. Even natural sciences are relative. That's how even Einstein um, brought about a critique of quantum mechanics, classical physics, okay, quantum physics by Newton. Okay, uh, nothing in this world is absolute. That what we are going to do, and that's why what Anil is posing this very important question, very significant question that Anil and Raut they're posing, especially now I'm dealing with Anil, that Anil Kumar is posing that uh, 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 whether we have philosophical foundations of research in natural sciences. You see, natural sciences for a pretty long period of time they have been guided by positivism, that postulates supremacy of science over non-sciences. As you slightly recall from the first few lectures what we have discussed, on positivism, that science is distinct from all areas of human activity or creativity because it possesses a method unique to it, that there is only one method common to all sciences irrespective of their subject matter, that is methodological monism, that the method of science is the method of induction. The whole lot of challenges that positivism could bring about, so far as theology and metaphysics are concerned. That's how natural sciences are also built upon certain philosophical foundations. Okay, and in the fourth week, what we are going to discuss Weber's part two of Max Weber, Weber's methodological individualism, meaningful social action, interpretative understanding of social action. Verstehen in German. It's understanding. Then you will find observatory understanding, explanatory understanding of social action, ideal types, and so on. And in the fifth week, we are going to discuss Karl Marx's delineation of research methods, philosophical foundations of social research. We are going to discuss idealism versus materialism, and how Marx undertook a more materialist position, a materialist conception of history, principles of dialectic. There are three principles of dialectic. You will find that one is interpenetration of the opposites, unity and struggle of opposites. Quantitative changes lead to qualitative changes, and vice versa, and the law of negation, right? And then we are going to discuss understanding nature. The relationship between human beings on the one hand and nature on the other. How there is a transition from faculty of contemplation to faculty of control. Okay, earlier notion was that nature controls us, and in the theological stage, in the metaphysical stage, especially in the metaphysical stage, that nature controls human action, right? And in the positivistic stage, we came to know that no, human beings know how to control nature, human beings know how to master over nature, and by acting upon nature, human beings not only change nature but also change themselves. The whole lot of uh, uh, the whole lot of uh, mm, uh, that social relations involved in this. I mean, social relations also undergo transformation. Mm, uh, uh, and then we are going to discuss the theory of ideology and theory of science in the context of Marx. How Marx's materialist method is different from that of the empiricists as well as that of the metaphysicists. Okay, I'll be dealing with what Anil is asking us, that the sense of certainty is quite impossible in social research. Do you agree with it? If yes, can we say social research always remains a quest to find truth? Even Anil, you are absolutely right that perhaps a sense of certainty, a sense of definitiveness is a myth in social science research today. Even in natural sciences, even in natural sciences, you just cannot say that everything is certain, everything is absolute, everything is definitive and so on, definite and so on. Okay, in the sense that what Marx's materialist method suggests, that how are you going to look at materialist method? How is it different from empiricism? Okay, no, for Marx, what do empiricists do? Empiricists are engaged always in the collection of dead facts. And what metaphysicists do? The metaphysicists are always engaged in speculative activities. On the contrary, on the contrary, Marx's materialist method um, uh, uh, Marx's materialist method uh, uh, not only tries to interpret the world in various ways, but also knows how to change it. Okay, change the social, economic, political, cultural phenomenon, right? And then obviously, in this sense, social science research today always remains a quest to, there is always a quest to find the truth. There is always a quest to find the knowledge. That's why even Marx said, in quest of truth, in quest of knowledge, one must go beyond the narrow confinements of his or her ideology. Okay, while even Marx said it, while dwelling upon ideologies in general and the German ideology in particular. Okay, can we apply Popper's falsification on metaphysics? If we can't, then can we call it a real science? Okay, in fact, if you look at this, even metaphysics is not a real science. Obviously, science, positivistic science, or the way positivism tried to construe science, okay, it doesn't gel well with metaphysical status quoists. Uh, and Popper's falsification that we are going to discuss in the 6th week, that principle of falsification, context of discovery and context of justification, hypothetical deductive model. Popper always started with this: what is the central question of philosophy? Now, the central question of philosophy is the problem of cosmology. Now, what is that problem of cosmology? Now, the problem of cosmology is the problem of understanding our world, including ourselves and our knowledge of the world as part of the world. Okay? If we divorce ourselves, if we isolate ourselves from our world, then we are not going to understand this world. Okay? Understand science. Okay? And that's how for him, the starting point of science is science always tries to identify a problem. Once a problem is identified, okay, then we tend to provide a tentative solution to a problem or hunch in the form of a hypothesis, and the hypothesis must be tested. as in the case of perhaps, I mean, in the case of rationalists, that no, hypothesis must be tested right or wrong. If it is tested wrong, then it must be rejected. If it is tested right, then it must be accepted, right? But in the context of Popper, a hypothesis should not be tested right or wrong. A hypothesis must be falsified, right? A hypothesis must undergo this process of systematic falsification. Okay, if a hypothesis is tested, I mean, if a hypothesis is falsified, then it must be refuted, and if it is not falsified, it should not be accepted just like that. It should be corroborated. Okay, it is subject to corroboration, so that you tend to keep your hypothesis permanently tentative. Okay, um, uh, and in this sense, Popper not only made a systematic attack on metaphysics but also on positivism. Okay, if anybody who has systematically attacked positivistic school of thought, it was mainly Popper. Okay, uh, then then we are going to, in the 6th week itself, we'll discuss Kuhn, Kuhn's paradigm shifts. I mean, according to Kuhn, every major science passes through two different stages, namely the pre-paradigmatic stage and the paradigmatic stage, and how normal science is pursued. I mean, normal science, I mean, it's a puzzle solving activity is pursued within a paradigm. Then how we are going to encounter anomalies, I mean, unexpected or unanticipated occurrences. I mean, anomalies refer to unanticipated or unexpected occurrences, how we are going to encounter anomalies in the normal scientific tradition. And then what we are going to do, what we are going to discuss, once science encounters anomalies, it enters into the stage of a crisis. It enters the stage of crisis. And once science is crisis ridden, it tries to search for a new paradigm. How are we going to find out a new paradigm in the context of when science is crisis ridden? Okay, then Kuhn suggests that no, science can arrive at a new paradigm provided it goes beyond normal science. It must look for a revolutionary science, right? I mean, if normal science is a tradition bound activity, then revolutionary science is a tradition shattering activity. Okay, in this sense, Popper and Kuhn, they provided uh, uh, different images of science. Mm, uh, uh, what Anil is posing, I mean, this is an interesting question. I would also like to say something about how observation precedes theory. I was wondering if the other way around is also possible. Yeah, obviously, it is possible. I mean, it is empiricists and positivists. They suggested that observation precedes theory. Observation is prior to the formation of theory. But rationalists, for example, Popper, for example, they suggested that no observation is theory free. If I will have to ask you this question, or somebody, you people will ask me this question, that how are you going to observe this room? I may say that no, there is a camera, there is a laptop, there is a speaker, there is um, a madam sitting here who helps me doing my things. There is just sanitizer, there are chairs, there is a table. But no, but I don't make these observations the way I observe. Obviously, you will observe in a different way. You will say that no, I don't like the color of the walls. I don't like the curtains. I don't like the kind of clock that the room has. See, everybody will observe in different ways, right? Uh, that's going to be extremely important, that our observations do not remain the same. Okay, that's why when empiricists suggested that no, observations are prior to the formation of theory, rationalists argued that no theory is, I mean, no observation is theory free. When positivists argued that no, there is a unilinear, there is a one-way relationship between observation and theory, observation is prior, observations are theory independent, whereas theories are observation dependent, then rationalists and also Popper, they suggested that you just cannot say this. On what basis you are saying that observation is prior to the formation of theory? Then empiricists suggested that you seeing is believing. If you cannot see anything, then you must not believe in this. Then immediately you will find that rationalists suggest that no, if you look at this our place, you may not be able to see proton, electron, and but it doesn't imply that they don't exist, right? They exist. Okay, even if you cannot observe them in your naked eye, yeah, but they still exist, right? Then, when on the one hand, empiricists suggest that no, science begins with observations, remains at the level of observations, and ends with observations. But on the contrary, rationalists suggest that science begins only when you go beyond observations. That's how science becomes trans-observational in nature. Okay, that's why empiricists are known as anti-realists, whereas rationalists are known as realists. Okay. Now again, now Reshov Raut asked this question: what are your thoughts on the beginning of universe regarding Big Bang hypothesis? Does it undergo a continuous cycle of Big Bang, and Big Crunch? Can this hypothesis ever be tested? You see, I'm not sure whether this hypothesis can be tested now or not, but such hypothesis, but we must make attempts to test such hypothesis, right? See, what we are studying now, perhaps it was not possible 50 years back or 100 years back. The kind of for a long time, if you slightly recall our initial lectures in the first week or so, while discussing Comte's law of stages, we started with theological stage, metaphysical stage, and positivistic and scientific stage. Okay, in the theological stage, the question that was posed, that who has created us? Who has created these human beings, plants, animals? Who has created them? In the theological stage, the proponents of the theological stage suggested that no, gods and goddesses have created us, right? In the metaphysical stage, the proponents of the metaphysical stage suggested that no, nature has created us. We are byproducts of nature. And in the positivistic or scientific stage, I mean the proponents of the positivistic or scientific stage, they suggested that no, uh, in fact, we have created nature. I mean, human beings have created nature. Human beings have created gods and goddesses. Okay? Human beings are the creations of their own action, own labor. I mean, then the whole lot of Darwinian principle of natural selection, Darwinian evolution of species, from jelly to the full human species that you tend to see today. Okay? Perhaps for a long time this was not possible. Okay, and then you also find the argument that Frederick Engels posed in the context of dialectic of nature. Okay, and Marx found out the social applicability of dialectic of nature in humanities and social sciences. Okay, that's how. That's why I do not know whether this hypothesis can be tested now or not, but obviously there will be attempts to test such hypothesis. Okay, I'm sure human civilization is not static; it's pretty dynamic. Okay, then in the seventh week, what we are going to do, we are going to discuss positivism versus hermeneutics. I mean, there are three parameters through which we are going to uh, uh, discuss. Uh, I mean, we are going to foreground the debates between positivism on the one hand and hermeneutics, tradition, phenomenological sociology on the other. Okay, I mean, natural sciences, those three indicators, those three yardsticks are natural sciences and social sciences, one, two, objectivity and subjectivity in social sciences, and three, quantitative and qualitative research traditions. And the hermeneutics tradition we are going to discuss, I mean, how meaningful meaningful human action, battery is running low. Meaningful human action, biblical interpretations, authentic version, and then we are going to discuss Dilthey's two methods in the seventh week. I mean, in the past, the focus was on the relationship of the creator by an act, or a book, or a picture to the interpreter, and in the second, the characteristics of individuals are disregarded. Instead, hermeneutics understands human action in relation to some wider whole, which gives it meaning. Okay. Then we are going to discuss how Mannheim posited that individual and cultural manifestations are a part of larger worldview in the context of sociology of knowledge. What Mannheim said, uh, that all knowledge except scientific knowledge is socially and culturally conditioned. On the contrary, David Bloor and others, they suggested that no, you see, all knowledge, including scientific knowledge, is socially caused. Okay, and for example, Pierre Bourdieu, just before his death in 2004, I think in December 2003, he delivered the Huxley Memorial Lecture, Participant Objectivism. The title of the lecture was Participant Objectivism, and subsequently it was published in one of the issues of 2004 in the Journal of the Royal Anthropological Institute. That he said that we must go beyond the absolutist, idealist, immanent development of science on the one hand, and historical relativism of science, which tries to construct science as a purely conventional social construct. We have to go beyond such binaries. We have to go beyond such dichotomies. Uh, uh, to historically situate science. Okay. Then we are going to discuss documentary meaning to human actions, critique of positivism in sociology, human actions caused by social structures, validity, hermeneutics circle. Then we are going to discuss Gadamer, I mean, the relationship between the part and whole, interpreter and the author, fusion of horizons, tentative interpretations. Whatever interpretations we make, they are all tentative. Then within phenomenological sociology, we are going to discuss analysis and description of everyday life. For example, Suge's phenomenology, sociology, Berger and Luckman's everyday life, typification, um, practical problems, institutionalized knowledge by others. Then, I mean, when I said Alfred Suze's phenomenological sociology, you will find how he wanted to construct an adequate theory of social action, partly based on a critique of Weber, that carried out a series of investigations into the construction of the Lebenswelt. I mean, life world. Okay, and it tried to investigate the manner in which a sociology that took human action as important could be scientific. Then we are going to discuss in this context we are going to discuss uh, uh, Verstehen. Again we are going back to Weberian Verstehen in the context of phenomenological sociology. Then we are going to discuss objectivity and subjectivity, whether the kind of uh, uh, knowledge that we produce, whether it is free of bias or prejudice or not. We'll see value relevance, value freedom, value neutrality, subjectivity, and then quantitative and qualitative research traditions. And then in the last week, we are going to discuss uh, uh, philosophy of the social sciences on the basis of 5 parameters. One is naturalism and the unity of scientific method. One, secondly, uh, critics of naturalism. Then thirdly, methodological individualism versus holism. Fourthly, what do social sciences do? And fifthly, methodological pluralism. Okay, and then we will discuss the end of philosophy of the social sciences, and perhaps uh, 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 and then perhaps through Quentin Skinner's works on the return of grand theory in the human sciences. Okay, it's not like that the debate ends there. I mean, if what Bell said, Daniel Bell said, end of ideology or something, that or Foucault's suggested rejection of enlightenment, rejection of grand theory. But it's also important to look at the return of grand theory in the human sciences in since the 1990s or so. Laskaras poses this question: is there any resemblance of Kuhn's structure of scientific revolution paradigm with social science research methodology? You see, it's extremely important to understand Kuhn. Obviously, please don't say that there is a resemblance or something. Certain things obviously we take from Kuhn, certain things we also take from Popper, for example. Right? Our knowledge of the social world is not absolute, it is not certain, it is not um, uh, uh, it is not absolute, right? I mean, it is not definite. Okay. We can take depending upon the research questions that we have, we can take cues from Kuhn, we can take cue from Popper, for example, we can take from Dilthey, Suge, Foucault. It depends on the kind of research questions that we have. Anil says, asks this question: is there any difference between the philosophy of social sciences and philosophical foundations of social research, or are the same? You see, at different levels, you can bring about a distinction between them. But right now, I don't want to bring about crude distinction between them, precisely because of the overlapping characteristics, overlapping nature of uh, um, nature of philosophy of social sciences on the one hand and philosophical foundations of social research on the other. Okay, there are certain overlapping features you will find. Okay, but when you look at philosophy of science or philosophy of social sciences, of to start with, interestingly, if you look at philosophy of science, perhaps for I think most of the universities in India, at least in India, they end with Popper and Kuhn, philosophy of science. Philosophical foundations of social research, most of the universities in India, they end with, they start with, they start and end with Durkheim, Weber and Marx. Okay. But that's not a correct way to look at these things. I always believe that there is so much which has gone into the making of philosophical foundations of social research. For the time being, I don't want to make a distinction between them, between philosophy of social sciences on the one hand and philosophical foundations of social research, precisely because of the overlapping characteristics of the two. Okay. Uh, and if you have any other question, then you can pose. And I must thank um, all of you, those who have participated in the live session. Um, I mean, Honorable Julaya, Iqbal Laskar, Reshob Raut, Anil Kumar, Dr. V. Nimawati M, and others, those who have posed questions. I sincerely thank all of you. If there is any question, then please pose, or else we have to leave it here, and again we'll come back in March for the final round of live session. Is there any question or reflection or query? Yeah. Query? Oh, okay. Thank you so much for being there. Okay, let's go ahead with the lectures now. On a weekly basis, you please attempt all the assignments. Please enroll for your exam registration later on, and then you will be given a certificate based on your performance. I request everybody to enroll for the final examination also. Normally, metaphysics is a topic which I am not able to clearly understand. Anil, you see, metaphysics uh, is not an absolute science or something. Okay, but obviously it is a much improved mode of production, much improved thought process as compared to theology. Okay, as when our intellectual and political consciousness rise, you tend to find that we try to reject human civilization, try to reject theological stage, and then try to come to terms with metaphysics. Okay, that's how the relationship between nature and human beings was built. Metaphysics is extremely important to understand the man-nature relationship. I mean, the relationship between human beings on the one hand and nature on the other. Um, okay, and if you really want to study metaphysics, pick up any textbook. Okay, but metaphysics should not be studied in isolation. Metaphysics must be studied in relation to or vis-a-vis positivism. Okay, how industrial revolution, if metaphysics is between theological understanding and science, the passage towards science, maybe it is an improved mode of production, it is an improved thought process as compared to theology, right? But metaphysics, had there not been metaphysical stage, perhaps it would have taken a longer time for human civilization to come to scientific stage, right? You're right. I mean, it is a passage towards science, because it created, it challenged, it posed questions about the existence of gods, goddesses, and so on. It tried to legitimize the significance of nature. The only problem with metaphysics was that they also were fallen into they were fallen into the trap of theology precisely when they started worshipping nature. The proponents of metaphysics, they started worshipping nature. Nature is our mother, nature is our god, nature has produced everything, nature has produced human beings, nature is responsible for this. Okay? Nature controls our human action. Okay? Okay. Is it clear, Anil? Okay? Okay. Now, Priti Tripathi. Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Please keep on attending the lectures, and we'll meet again in the live session in March. But please keep on attending all the lectures and attempt your, all you attend your complete your assignments. Russell, you see, Vidhi Vir Arya. Okay, Russell, Bertrand Russell, I think you are referring to. See, for Russell, um, it's extremely important to understand Russell's work in the context of perhaps Wallerstein. Not Wallerstein, sorry. Um, uh, Not Wallerstein. In the context of who said no that the limit of my language is the limit. No, the limit to my language is the limit to my thought. Uh, who said this? Ludwig Wittgenstein. Sorry, yeah. In the context of Wittgenstein, I just was not able to recall. Okay, but Russell's framework, in a way, or in more sense than one, in more senses than one, you will find that Russell's work was a reflection of uh, no, not Frey. It is Wittgenstein. Uh, it is Wittgenstein. Okay? Ludwig Wittgenstein. Okay. The limit to my uh, the limit to my if I cannot express something clearly, then I must pass over in silence. Okay. Yes. But Russell tried to interrogate the hitherto existing patterns of social and economic arrangements, academic arrangements. Interrogation was more critical, more authentic to Russell, right? But at the same time, you will find that Russell was trying to build another uh, uh, wall where you will find that he is trying to build another knowledge pattern, another form of knowledge which itself can be challenged. Okay. Is it clear? Okay, thank you so much uh, for attending this live session. We'll meet in the next live session in March 2021. But keep on attending all the lectures. Please write your assignments, write your final examination with preparation. I'm sure you all are very bright. You are going to do well in the examination. Okay. Thank you very much. Please take care of your health. Thank you.